Before we move on, we wish to consider what we learned this morning. 3 lines. Obviously, it's more than 3 lines. In the explaining of the grammar, how limited and incompetent I am in Sanskrit, I know just enough to understand this kind of thing. And in understanding the grammar, understanding also the dharma behind it, and it could get complicated if we go ahead of ourselves. So we want to consider Adande, Dandapati, Dandavarte. Just contemplative. Remember the state of availability and vulnerability of Adande. To disengage defense mechanism. Yes, you will be judged. It will happen. Yes, at one point, you will be affected by people, by environment, by life event, by your own choices. It will happen. Okay? To drop out of your defense system is not to become irresponsible and accept torture from the external world. There's still prudence and justice. Prudence, justice are virtues that aim at protecting your happiness, so it will endure. Okay? Faith is to not worry about it, but faith is not endorsing carelessness. Okay? So every virtue comes to support each other, and it becomes compassion. When all our sub-virtue is present, you have the pure understanding of compassion. Okay? Adande, Dandapati, Dandavarte. So Dandapati, Dandavarte, let's take both expressions at the same time. You're a master of yourself with no exception. There's not a single area that is not under your care in your life. So we contemplate it. We don't dwell in meditation now, we just contemplate it. From that point, Danda Kusale, you can observe your sheet if you want to read the name. Danda Kusale. Kushal is a skill. Okay, Kushala, it's a skill or to be skillful. So Danda Kushale, it's to be skillful with a stick. It's to be skillful with whatever we expressed so far, in the sense of wanting to master yourself. Danda Kushale is to believe that you will become better in terms of skillful. There's another term called Sudare that we'll learn later that means being better in terms of a better person, better behavior. Okay? So, to become better, we can lose ourselves in an entire world of believing in what is perfection and what is imperfection. This is all false perception of reality. Okay? You can become better in terms of having more skill or agility or abilities. And then you can become better in a different way as having more value. Of course, the principles of value don't really exist. But having more quality as a person, basically being more virtuous, to behave correctly. So to better yourself is to gain skill and to gain virtue, which is 2 ways to become a better person. And they express it here in the next part that we're going to study. Okay? So the 4th line, Danda Kushale, means that you are aiming at developing skills to do everything we're talking about, personal growth. Okay? Adande is the attitude. Dandapati is your means. Well, it's a choice, if you want. It's to choose to become that master. Dandavarte is a resolution, to be resolved that there is no exception. It's your motivation. Okay? So basically, it's your Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva of that prayer. It's your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd plane attitude of that prayer. The Brahma attitude, Adanda. There's no offense. There's no defense. Dandapati is the Vishnu, to be alone. And the Dandapati is a Shiva. It's absolutely everywhere, in oneness, in unity, in ever-moving transformation. Okay? So the three first steps correspond to that. Dandakushali then becomes yours. It becomes you. You become skilled. Or you develop the skill. Maybe it's an intention. It doesn't say if you are skillful, if you're going to become skillful, if you should be already, therefore you're a bad person. If you're not, no, there's no indication. So I guess it's the contemplation of the skills, meaning that now we have technique. Dandakushali means to be resolved to use technique, to pay attention, to be careful, to invest yourself. Okay? To become skillful, it's not just to have skill and never use them. It's to actually use your skill. That line is extremely simple and we're done with it. Just do it. Okay? Dandakushali mean just do it. Don't linger. If you've already resolved that there was no exception, then do it. Apply yourself. Huh? Skillful means apply yourself. Okay, so maybe we can Dandapati is the idea of accepting there's no exception. Okay, I'll do it, and then you drag your feet and you don't really want to do it correctly. So Dandakushali is do it correctly, do it with skill, apply yourself in your personal growth. Are we good with that? Then you have personal growth. Dandasudare is personal growth. It's to use that stick as an object, and the object is you. The object is your ego. The danda is compared often to your chakra structure, your kundalini, your two towers inside. It's everything that stands firm. It's a pillar that supports you. Okay? So, Sudare, let's explain the word Sudare. Dara is a method. Dara actually changes meaning depending on where it's applied. So let's take it in this concept. Dara is focused and directed. Okay, that's Dara. Sudara it's not a verb, it's an object or a phenomenon. Okay? Sudara, the particle su means auspicious and supreme. Some of you know about Sudarshan. Darshan is to observe, to gaze. And Sudarshan is to gaze supremely with auspicious, really absorbed like a lord that gazes on his kingdom, like God looks at the universe. Okay? So if the Su is that kind of supreme influence, in Sudarshan is the same in Sudara. It's more than behavior, it becomes virtue. It's to, Sudara is to manage yourself correctly, more than correctly in terms of conditioning in society. To behave correctly, it's to be polite. Dara could be politeness in a certain context. Sudara means it's way more than being polite. It's the spiritual, auspiciously correct way. It becomes virtue. Okay. So Danda Sudare, Sudara is the phenomenon or the object of virtue if there would be one. Sudare is to be virtuous, to act virtuously. Danda Sudare is to use your personal growth to develop virtue into your actions. Because you decided to resolve yourself at doing it. Then the sixth line is Sudare. Just that. And that becomes the second siddhi that we can apply when we do that. The first siddhi, or the first word that you contemplate alone, is adande. To drop out of defense and projection. The second siddhi that can be applied or worked on this with the Danadapati method is Sudare. It's simply contemplation of virtue. not a specific virtue, but what does it mean to be virtuous? It's a city, so you don't allow your mind to start thinking about it. Or to, when we do contemplation, there's a bit of reflection of mental process about what it could mean. You tell yourself stories, you imagine scenarios, you do whatever you have to do to discover it. In this case of a city, is to practice sudare and contemplate simply being virtuous. So we will do it right now, okay? First, we will all repeat verbally and loudly, well, not shouting to hear your voice, the first 6 lines, okay? With the feeling of what it means. I'm going to first say it. I mean, we had an hour class on that one, so I'm not going to, a phrase will not be enough. So, non-defensive, all-accepting, Dandapati, to master myself, Dandavarte, with no exception, Dandakushale, skillfully I apply myself, Dandasudare, to better myself. So, the Dandakushale is a skill of being better that way. The Dandasudare is to become a better person, so bettering yourself. But that is used out of the concept of perfection and imperfection. It's not about you're better because you were bad before. It doesn't endorse the judgment of not being good enough. That's your ego that does that. It's just to find more happiness, to become more virtuous. And sudare, you have the second C, okay? So everyone, just the Sanskrit, right? Dande, Dandapati, Dandavarte, Dandakusale, Dandasudare, Sudare. And you contemplate sudare. Siddhi, sudare. Sudare. Virtue. The siddhi are virtuous behavior. It causes something inside. It's wonderful. The siddhi, sudare, by a means we don't explain now, makes you realize that you're a great person. It really makes you feel great. Sudare. Behaving with virtue, we feel great. Sudare. It brings a feeling of satisfaction that you have done good work on yourself, that you're really doing your best. It feels good. When you finally decide to do the dishes and all your chores, and you know that you kept yourself clean and you feel good about yourself. Sudare is about your being, even your soul. You did what you have to do. You contemplate sudare, virtuous being. That's good. Come back. You have to take a note which are the siddhis that we practice as siddhi, because this week we will be doing the practice of the siddhis of Dandapati, in addition to the contemplation of a prayer with a more active mind. Dande is the first siddhi of the Danadapati. The second is sudare. The third is Suavardhani, just a few lines below. The fourth is Asamge, 3 lines below that. And the fifth siddhi, like any system of 5 that I teach, is the last line, Simhavikridite. The playful lion. Okay, so we'll review that over time, alright? These are the siddhi practice you'll be doing. It's just some people won't be there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. So I want to immediately say it so they can at least refer to it until the video is available. Alright? We're good? So, Adande, Dandapati, Dandavarte, Dandakusare, Dandasudare, Sudare, Sudarapati, Buddhapashyane. The next 2 lines, 7 and 8, okay? Sudarapati and Buddhapashyane will take a bit of playing with the mind, okay? So, Sudarapati, you can guess it's the mix of that Lord and that Sudare. Now, Sudare in the 5th and 6th line was an action. Sudare, to better yourself, as a verb. In Sudarapati, it's not the verb of Sudare, it's the object Sudara, to be a good person, as a thing, as what you are, okay? Sudarapati, the Lord is a good person, or virtuous. That's what it means. So, on the second line, Dandapati, to take that decision that you're in charge of your personal growth, of your spiritual path. In the Sudarapati, that person in charge is virtuous. So there's contemplation there. We don't use it as a siddhi. You could use it as a siddhi if you want, but on that one, we want you to be contemplative. Therefore, you reflect on it. Okay? Sudarapati. To be a master. The virtuous Lord of yourself. So to be a master. And breathe. It's good? Does it feel good to contemplate it? Regardless of where you are in your path, contemplating this brings you self-confidence in it and faith. I can do it. It's for a moment, you don't contemplate how bad you are. You just say, alright, Sudarapati, Sudare, bettering. You meditated the idea of being virtuous. And then your ego starts to get it. Oh, I could be that. Oh yeah, I could be a master of virtue. Oh yeah, I could. Let's do this. Aha! Right? And you just become motivated in believing in yourself. So, the first ego-crushing 3 lines to break your pride about yourself, to make you humble, to make you available to personal growth, then inspires you to do it, and you start to feel good immediately, regardless how much personal growth you've done so far. The moment that you're serious about any little step, you become a great person per little step. It's just, wow, I'm a Lord, I can be good, I believe it, yeah. Okay? It conditions yourself, not through only autosuggestion, but through the siddhi application of virtue, of wanting to be virtuous, of believing in virtue. Some of you got it, just practicing Sudare, to behave virtuously. Oh, by the way, the word Sudare does not mean virtue in Sanskrit, it means to behave in the most appropriate way. So it's virtue by what it implies, right? There's another word for virtue, we don't want to get into that. So, Sudare, on the top of the head, mentally understanding would be, okay, I'll contemplate virtue, and you imagine virtue, but if you do Sudare as a siddhi, the feeling of greatness comes. I don't know if you got it. I know a few people of you got it because I saw sparks of golden light and dream here and there. So it means that some of you got it, okay? Peter, you got it. Wow, you contemplate virtue, I'm Lord, a real Lord. And you know, you can be in service to the whole of the universe, because if you're the Lord, you're responsible of everything and you want to. You endorse your role as a supreme being by doing the Siddhi Sudhare. So it really does make you feel great. Okay? Then you have an ego crisis reaction, you become arrogant and pompous. People tell you you're an asshole, you remember you should integrate that, and then you have only the virtue remaining. So that's good. It'll be okay, you know, you'll grow from all that. We've done Sudhare, Danadapati, to be a lord, to master. Okay, and Danadapati, you'll do the contemplation when you look at every line in a contemplative way of knowing this is self-mastery. Okay. Buddha Pashyane. That's the first chunk, man. From Adande to Buddha Pashyane, that's the first chunk. It's a self-contained concept. The moment you start Adande, eventually you have the Buddha Pashyane experience. Buddha Pashyane is basically to awaken. Okay. Through observation. Pashyane is literally translated as whose sight has been awakened. Well, Buddha Pashyane means you finally see consciously. Okay. It's good, eh? Breathe, feel it. It's a good feeling. Buddha Pashyane is one of those contemplated wisdom. Buddha Pashyane. Awakened perception. To see clearly, to finally understand. Is, I get it now. It's, you know when you do an integration and you have a big eureka moment? I get it. Well, that is Buddha Pashyane. It's that wonderful feeling when you finally see the truth and there's no lie for a moment inside you. It feels great. This is the Buddha Pashyane. Okay. In another version, they interpret it as a wall made of consciousness, or a wall made of awakening. We don't use that version because this is the real world, the real world words of that prayer. But those who translate it in a rampart of consciousness, they take it as a protection. Well, I guess there's a side effect of being protected from your own arrogance, because people can't affect you if you're conscious of what affects you really. Okay, so by side effect, I guess they're okay with their interpretation, and that's pretty good. I chanted the rampart or stone for, 15 years before I learned that version and preferred that one. Okay, the one about finally seeing consciously, I'm aware. So, no judgment there. I did grow a lot with the first interpretation of the Dandapati that I got. So, don't judge anything, alright? I love it. The feeling of that first chunk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so it's 8 line. How many lines is there? So there's 29. Okay, so I don't know how to separate this numerologically, so let's... Alright, this first chunk of 8 is awesome. Next. Oh, that's good. It's a chunk of 8, a chunk of 8, a chunk of 4. That's cool. It really does feel like a Melchizedek system, huh? 8, 8, 4. You're good for the next part? I don't want to go too quick, but I'm asking, when I ask whether you answer or not, I like it when you answer. Wait, Maha, can I digest that block? And then I'll say no or yes. Okay? But getting a bit of feedback is good. You don't have to shout it, it's okay. We went quickly. This is the initiation. Those do boot camp every day, and those do weekend if you want to do tonight's practice. Every day you have an evening practice until the last Saturday. so that this will really sink into you and you'll believe that you can accomplish yourself as a divine being at the end of the seminar. Or you'll have a tool to get there. Okay? Sarva Dharanya Vartani. Okay, now, third line, Dandavarte meant, Avarte is all around. Avartani is, it is around, or it circulates. Okay? So it will be contextual on which one it is. Sarva Dharani Avartani. Sarva is everything or complete. Okay? Dharani is the spell. What is a spell? Sarva Dharani is... Most people will say Sarva Dharani Avartani in that line, thinking the spell in question is the Dandapati. It's not. It didn't say that the Dandapati Dharani we're chanting is all around you. It says the spell, the complete spell, is always everywhere. Which spell is it? So we're starting to talk about the magic, not the fantasy, the fantastic, but not the fantasy. The magic, the supernatural. Let's try to open another door in your head with that one. The Dharani in question, let's explain the word Dharani, okay? Dharani means to explain what is there, or to declare it. Da is a form. Ra is to define. And Ni is objective, or the object, in this case, is to be objective. So, Dharani, we say it's a spell, but what does it mean? It means to decree something, to declare it, to give it a form by defining it objectively. That's Dharani. So, Dharani is not just a spell, because we learned that Dharani means spell or magic. Dharani is your word, is your command. And not just the word of your mouth. Your thoughts, your beliefs, and what you decide to make life of will be all around you. Sarva Dharani Avartani. Everything that you declare to be will be ever present around you. That's what Sarva Dharani Avartani is. So, it doesn't mean that every spell is circulating around you. This is the first interpretation they say. You chant and then you have these like Buddhist wheel that you just spin. So just chant the Danadapati and it will roll around and swirls. It's a super beautiful New Age visualization, I admit. But it's not a pure Dharma. And I don't pretend to explain the pure Dharma now. I'm pretending to explain the Dharma you can grasp. Okay? And hopefully its purity implies that it works right now at our level. Okay? So Sarva Dharani, absolutely everything you define will surround you. Karma. Causality. It means that you are responsible. It means that your mind, if it's positive, you'll have positive around you. If you have negative in your mind, you'll have negative around you. Okay? So it initiates the next block into this sense of responsibility, that what you have defined becomes a spell. So Sudare is more than just behaving correctly. It's an auspicious way of behaving. It is supreme. It is magical. You are a lord. We've seen all this so far in the Dharani. So obviously you're going to become a mage. You create your life. With that, so it's not just personal growth. It turns you into a powerful being that starts defining the environment that you're living in. Oh, that's cool. I love this spell. So by becoming a master of myself, Sarva Dharani Avartani, everything will be as I declare it. That's called the magical arts. You become the manifester. One step at a time. Breathe. Okay, so that makes sense? It's a declaration of responsibility and also a door opening to the possibilities that you will gain the power to define everything as you work on yourself. Sarva Dashya Vartani. Okay. So, sarva dharani avartani makes you responsible of everything that is declared. In other words, everything you believe in. You have to be responsible for how you have defined your existence. It completely changes its meaning by changing the middle word. Sarvan dashya vartani. Because dashi is where you go. It's not clear. Literally, okay, every dwelling place is your path. So we're talking about MahaVajra. There's a big field, there's no path, you just wherever you go. Okay? So instead of being on a specific path, a very clear religion, a really clear philosophical way of being or system of belief is wherever you go is your path. And the word dwell means not really have a plan. You weren't going somewhere, you're just walking around. Okay? So wherever you find yourself was exactly the perfect place to be. In a Zen way, we could say, you are exactly where you are. We could say that. Sarva, everything, all the time, complete. Dashi, where you are, your place or your path. Avartani, all around, wherever you are, okay? If the sarva dharani avartani was everything you declare, sarva dashyavartani can be wherever you are, wherever you go. Now let's expand that line into in whatever situation you find yourself. If we consider that it's the line sarva dashyavartani, it's the line that follows the previous sarva dharani, everything you've defined becomes anywhere you will be. So it's not just a specific local place. We're talking about situation where you dwell, where you find yourself. Eventually you, oh, so this is what's going on now in my life. It's not a reference if you're going to the office or to school or to your bedroom, although it could. Only when you get to school, the office or the bedroom, then is the place where you are. Until then, you're not there. It refers to the idea that there will be tons of events that happen as they happen. So wherever you dwell as your path, we're talking about a spiritual path. So it's not a specific philosophy. It's the heartbreak, the new lover. The poverty, the new job. The parents, the children, the lovers, being born, dying. Things happen in life. Okay. These two lines go together. If you consider that everything you declare by your system of belief will define what? Where you find yourself, where you dwell. So these lines go together. You'll end up going through exactly the experiences that you have defined yourself or that personal growth requires you to go through in order to awaken. I can see here the ego resist that part. It seems like it's just one of those two lines. There's 2 times sarva. There's 2 times avartani. Everything, everywhere. Okay? Everything, everywhere. You've got these 2 concepts in both lines. Dharani and dasya is the 2 words. It says this is everything, everywhere, all the time. What you define and where you find yourself, where you end up, okay, is the result of you as a mage, as a creator of your existence. Breathe. These 2 lines are implying an even greater sense of responsibility. You don't know what resists inside you. Only a few resist, but I can feel it clearly. That resistance is your fear of that supreme power. Okay? It's just telling you you're in charge with no exception. And then what? I really define it? And I really have to take the responsibility to deal with what happens. The Dasya Vartani, the dwelling part, is you have to deal with what happens when you dwell, as things happen without a plan. It also indicates that there was no plan per se. The Dasya Vartani implies also you have no control. There's tons of implication there. It's, you define it, but you have to deal with the consequence. And then, it's out of your control. Although you're the God creating it, or you're the divinity, the divine essence creating it, you don't control it. You're in charge. You can throw a ball, but you'll let nature decide when it's landing, unless you grow skill and throw it exactly where you want it. Okay? So that's what it implies. When you're skilled with throwing a ball in the hole or in an area, you know where it goes. But if you remember the first few times you tried to throw a ball in your life, you went like that, and it just, you dropped it at the wrong time, or, you were a kid and it just went random. If you don't remember your own experience, try to remember if you saw a clip on Facebook or YouTube of a kid doing foolish things and it doesn't really happen the way you wanted. Okay, well, you're a kid in your evolution. And the balls you throw are not skillfully mastered, I can't go to the next line until I feel that you get it. Try to be honest with yourself. Can you? Breathe. Go feel that fear. Go feel the fear. You have the fear of realizing that you have ultimate power over your life. You know that part of you that says, I don't want to do the dishes. Oh, I don't want it to be my fault. You mean I have to take care of my life for real? Oh, yeah. Okay, so Sarvadharanya Vartani, Sarvandasya Vartani means that I'm an adult. Oh, fuck. And you find your lazy, egocentric self. Breathe. There's fear, but there's also the laziness, to be a cheap person. Ah, you're getting it now. We got it. I found a way through integration. It's re-endorsing once again the idea of responsibility of the first 3 lines. Now it suggests it's all around you. It's not just inside. It's not just personal growth anymore. It means it's also around. Avartani, it's around. It's everywhere. So it's not just inside how you feel. It's also in the causality and the consequence of what you create. I thank you for your moment of humility. To feel that, let's go to the next line. Suavartani. Suavartani, it means rotating well or good at magical arts. Well, these are the 2 English possible interpretations literally. Suavartani is to know everything around you is supreme. Not really, but I'm saying this now. Then we'll move on to the city part, okay? Suavartani. Let's do another step. It's to accept it. Sarvadharanya Vartani, you know that it is conformed to your declaration or your belief or your conditioning. Sarvandasya Vartani, you're responsible of anywhere you end up, at every level. Suavartani is to endorse it, is to take that responsibility auspiciously. Okay, all of it, everywhere. Breathe. So obviously Suavartani does not mean responsible, literally. There's another word for responsibility in Sanskrit. Suavartani is in relationship to it's the 3rd avartani that is blocked, but it's the fourth avartani of the dharani itself. There was avarte at the beginning, third line. So it's the fourth time we invoke the non-local aspect, because it's not just there, it's whatever. So usually in grammar, avartani means a specific object around. So we say it's what spins or what rotates. But in the case of the dharani, it is the component avarta and the component ni. Avarta is the all around, and ni means objective. Avartani, to take it as it is. Whatever is there, to accept it. Accept it auspiciously, accept it like a Lord accepts it. Su avartani. I accept everything objectively as a God accepts it, taking it just as it is. So it's just to understand the difference between the pure grammar of su avartani means it really spins high, okay, to su avartani is auspiciously everything objective, just as it is, okay, which inspires you to accept it, okay. So avartani becomes the city of, it's like Tathagata a bit, it's like simplicity, but from the point of view of responsibility. Yes, I accept. I accept what? Let's say I accept evolution, experience. Ask you a question? So let's practice the siddhi suavartani. Supreme auspicious objectivity of everything that is there around. It includes you, but it's everything around too. Your life experiences, responsibility, suavartani. Continue with suavartani. Remember that it is vulnerable, like adande. It is virtuous, like sudare. Suavartani, you accept the responsibility with the knowledge that you are virtuous and humble. Breathe and come back. Oh, the ego as its fill. Let's continue. You will take your sheet, because we will now recite verbally, vocally, slowly, the Sanskrit. Let me tell the story again. Adande, non-defensive and all-accepting. Dandapati, endorsing. Dandavarte, to do my best. In personal growth. Dandakusali, skillfully. Dandasudare, to develop virtue. Sudare, to be virtuous in my actions. Sudarapati, to be a master of virtue as a good being. Pudapashane, to have an awakened perception on all things. Sarvadarani avartani, that everything happens according to my conditionment and defining. Sarvadasya vartani, and everything happens and I will take it as it happens in life, wherever I dwell. Suavartani, endorsing that responsibility like a Lord, like a Supreme Being does. Let's chant it. Adande Dandapati Dandavarte Dandakusale Dandasudare Sudare Sudarapati Budapashyane Sarvadaraniya Vartani Sarvandashya Vartani Suhavartani. Breathe. As you study every component, and now you recite it, and you can feel that surge of power inside. Kundalini. Your Kundalini starts to push with a profound desire to accomplish yourself. Your soul is absolutely convinced of the success of what we invoke here. Your human probably isn't yet. It will come. But your soul is completely convinced. So when you invoke it, even your human starts to agree with the possibility of being fully awakened, of being virtuous, of being a master, a responsible master of everything. So it augments in you the faith that you can do it. As much as you accept to become in charge of that power, which is evolution, growth, as much you gain the ability to do so with ease. Because whatever fights personal growth, you know that voice inside that doesn't want to do that integration, that doesn't want to forgive when you're hurt, that doesn't want to drop out of pride to be humble, that power inside that refuses virtue or humility. This is a practice and a study of yourself to see what resists being a holy being, a holy person. Let's recite it again, please. Dande Dandapati Dandavarte Dandakusale Dandasudare Sudare Sudarapati Budapashyane Sarvadarani Vartani Sarvadashya Vartani Suavartani. Sorry about that. My bad. When I sing it slow, I'm used to just just flows, you know. I have to read. My mind is too involved when I go at a different rhythm than my conditioning. Thank you for your time. Thank you for going through one more step of that wonderful class. Every other step will be easier, more complex for the mind to understand. I'll drop words so quickly you won't get it if you don't have 2 years of study of Sanskrit. But Okay. It'll work. You get it so far? It's good? It makes sense. It corresponds to our personal growth approach to evolution. We like it. We take a break.